Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast, the preview show. We are here today to preview the West Bromwich Albion game on Boxing Day. It will soon be here once all the festivities have ended. I hope you're looking forward to that particular game. There's something that's a bit different when you're watching Derby County around Christmas. Maybe there's a sense of optimism. We'll have to see. But joining me today, you might recognise our guest. He is a regular on our channel, which is not normally what we do in terms of these previews, but our formatting is going to change in the new year. And Vik Singh is Mr. Ramstalk, so we had to get him involved in the preview show. He's also our Midlands football expert as well. So how are you doing, Vik Singh?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I've always wanted to do a preview show, but I didn't think I'd be a guest on it. So this is quite fun. But yeah, not too bad. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I've just come off of doing the Sunday live, so I haven't even had chance to change a t-shirt. So people will think I've only got one t-shirt or something like that. So yeah, just come off the back of that. Obviously dissecting the loss against Luton, but now I'm looking forward to looking at this particular game. As I say, Vic obviously is in the Midlands and around a lot of the Midlands clubs. I know you've got some family ties to West Brom as well, so you've had some good conversations with family members and got some of their opinions as well. I guess just to touch on now as you're here and you've missed the review show, Vic. Just touching on that Luton game, what were your kind of immediate thoughts after that one?
It was a bit of a weird one because I thought we played well. I thought we did enough to probably take all 3 points, in my opinion. But football is the way it is sometimes, and I think sometimes you get your slice of luck and sometimes you don't. Unfortunately for us, that against Luton, we didn't get any luck, and they got 2 set pieces, a couple of deflections, and they've got 2 goals and they took 3 points. Over the course of the season, it'll all balance out. We've had our luck with Coventry away, with the Jerry Yates back pass to go through on goal. We've also had the Middlesbrough centre back that passed it through for Jackson to score, and we take 3 points in both those games. So it swings and roundabouts. It's bittersweet because obviously we lost, but I thought we probably played some of the best football we've played away from home all season in that game, and we looked really dominant. So unfortunately, we don't get the points, but the performance was really encouraging.
Yeah, and if we can take some of those elements onto the next couple of games, obviously West Brom, Leeds, and then Sheffield Wednesday, they're quite tough games, but all games in this division are tough at this level. So yeah, if we can take some of the performance and some of the, I think at times the fight and the tenacity, then hopefully we'll end up getting a result or two over this kind of festive period. But let's look at West Brom. They're obviously off the back of a 2-0 victory against Bristol City. Of course, we were able to do that. We went one better, didn't we? Beating Bristol City. But over the last couple, so they lost 2-1 against Watford. They beat Coventry 2-0, and then an impressive 2-2 draw with Sheffield United, and then a draw with Preston as well. So, I mean, it's been fairly solid. They're in 7th at the moment, and in terms of their form away from home, that looks as good as it is in terms of at home as well. And I guess that's why they find themselves where they are in the division. We'll talk through a little bit around kind of their players and stuff, I suppose, in the next couple of minutes. But what's been your kind of view on their start, Vic?
I think they've started okay. I wouldn't say naturally. I'd say West Brom are quite slow starters, a bit like us. They tend to have a mixed bag of results, and that probably echoes in where they are in the table at the minute. I think they're sitting just outside the playoffs on goal difference. So they've had a lot of draws in that sequence of results that they've had up until now. So yeah, naturally they are slow starters, but I think they're prodding along well. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of rumours going around about Carlos Corberán and maybe potentially taking the Southampton job, which from what I've gathered, he's turned it down. But he was also involved in the Leicester talk as well. So there's been a bit of nerves and a bit of unsettling nerves going around there. But generally speaking, I think for the squad that they have, I think they're probably about where they should be. The top 6 on the fringes of it. They're a good side. They've got good championship experience there. There's quite a lot of number of players, especially in attacking sense, where they've got some real quality. So I'd say they've probably had a good start. Normally, I think with West Brom, they tend to pick up after January from previous seasons, and they normally tend to finish seasons pretty well. So we'll see what happens. But they're in a decent position. They're in the promotion mix, and they're not doing too bad for themselves. So I mean, just to be outside the playoffs and goal difference is pretty decent. I mean, we'd love to be in that position maybe in a year or two's time when we find our feet in the championship. But naturally, they're slow starters, but I think they've done all right.
Yeah, you obviously mentioned there about the manager, and he's obviously come out and said it's disrespectful for me to talk about other teams and kind of the links there. Obviously, I think when a manager comes out and kind of distance themselves, sometimes that just makes the fans kind of back them a little bit more, or maybe you get a bit more from your players or something like that. So maybe we'll see their performances improve. Obviously that they've been going well, but maybe we will see them improve because he's kind of committed himself to the club. And yeah, I mean, he's got some fantastic players at his disposal. One player I think we should talk about quite quickly is Josh Maja, who has got 10 goals in the league this season. Whenever I think about him, I think about the Netflix documentary when he was at Sunderland, and it was are you going to go? Are you going to stay? And he ended up going and had a good spell over in France, and now finds himself back in the Championship. Just a goal scorer, isn't he, Vik? I mean, he's a player that we would absolutely love at Pride Park.
100%. I think he's probably the sort of player we're missing at the minute. I think with the way we play, I think that's all we need is a number 9 that can put the ball in the back of the net. And Maja does that, and he's done that excellently. Particularly in the first few games of the season, he was on really hot form. I think the majority of his goals must have come within the first 5 or 6 games. But he looks a real threat. He's got the physical presence. He's got the speed. He's also got the eye for goal. He's always in the right positions at the right time. So he's definitely going to be a threat for West Brom. But yeah, it's really interesting to see in most recent games how his form sort of gone up and down. And maybe his style of plays might have changed a bit. Maybe he's more of a hold-up striker now. Maybe Corbrand's working with him on different things. But when you've got a striker like that in your team, you've always got a chance in you. And he's got, like you said, he's got 10 goals already this season. And we're only just about hitting the halfway mark. So the world's his oyster, and he's definitely a player that our defence needs to watch out for, especially on Boxing Day.
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's the kind of striker that potentially could occupy the likes of Phillips and Nelson and give them some real worries to have. I think sometimes when you've got a striker that you just can't take kind of your eye off or rest on your laurels, and then that's when obviously other players kind of come into fruition. And I know obviously their result today, one of their wingers has gone and got a goal. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's very difficult sometimes to deal with a player that you know is not going to give you a moment's rest. Obviously, in behind Josh Maja as well is another player that, again, I would absolutely love to see in this Derby team at the moment in John Swift. I guess a championship veteran, even though he's only 29. Obviously had that spell at Reading and was there for a number of years. Now, obviously, at West Brom, going to West Brom in 2022, and seems to have kind of kicked on and I guess got the fans on side quite quickly at West Brom. I guess another player there, Vik, who's going to cause us problems if we allow him to get on the ball and to pull some strings.
Yeah, I mean, John Swift has always been consistently good in the Championship. You look back to his Reading years, and he was mainly the sort of player that just kept him ticking. And I think he's got a similar sort of role at West Brom. But if you look at West Brom's all attacking out, basically all the attacking options. You're looking at John Swift. They've got Jed Wallace who can play really well at this level. You've seen he's put really good performances in at Millwall, and even moving to West Brom, he's been one of their mainstays. You're looking at players like Callum Grant, again, another sort of striker / number 10 who varies between the two positions. He's a very good player at this level. You're looking at players like Fellows. They've got really, really good attacking options in that side. And I mean, if we're looking to try and beat them on Boxing Day, I think it's going to be one of those end-to-end games. But I think our defense needs to be switched on, because I think going forward, they can really hit you, really hurt you, and when they're going forward and attack, they attack with pace, they attack with physicality, and I think that's the sort of things we need to keep an eye on. But they've got an array of talent going forward, and it does give you some slight concerns. But I think the way our defense is set up, I think we should be fine. We've dealt with probably worse than that. Not worse, worse in the sense of like maybe more high-profile attackers who can really cause some damage, and we've kept players like Colby Bishop quiet, who had a lot to say before the Portsmouth game. But yeah, so they've got an array of attacking talent, but I think we will have enough to sort of try and keep him at bay.
Yeah, and obviously missing Aaron Cashin, so it's probably likely, depending on if we play a 3 or a 4, I imagine he'll probably go to a 4 with Phillips and Nelson. Do we worry a little bit in terms of, I guess, their pace? You said there in terms of them having a bit of pace in wide areas and up front. Is that not really the type of players that our defence want to play against?
Ideally, no, but I think we might have more than enough in the tank. If Elder starts, I think Elder will probably keep one of their wingers at bay, depending on who plays on their right side. It could be Diangana, who's also a very good player at this level. He's also been up with West Brom in the Championship. He's took them to the Premier League before, so we know what Diangana can do on his day. But I think if we get the setup right, especially defensively, I think we could be okay. But I think pace-wise, they may try to exploit us in that sense, because they know that if Cashin's out, you're looking at a centre-back pairing or a 3 of Nelson, Phillips, and potentially Sonny Bradley. Now he's back in the fold after that Luton game. Me personally, I probably thought it was a bit of nostalgia just starting him and making him captain. But you look at our defence, and we're not the quickest, and they could look to exploit that. However, if we do decide to play with wing backs and we're playing with a back 5 almost, I think we should be able to contain them. But their pace will always be a worry throughout the game. And again, going back to the Championship experience, they've got these players that know how to win games, and I think they'll do whatever they can to try and win that. So if they're looking to use the width, they probably will. They generally set up in a 4-4-2 sort of formation, which is quite old school when you think about it, just considering they've got a manager like Carlos Corberán who likes to get the ball on the floor and play some pretty nice, pretty tippy-tappy football. So if they're going to set up with a 4-4-2, I think we're more likely to probably set up with a back 4-2 as well, just to combat that. But yeah, I think our centre backs might have a handful, especially if they're playing Grant and Madra up top. If we are looking for pace, I think we're going to have to really be tight and really keep them at bay.
You know, and I think looking at the team that obviously started against Bristol City, what I see there is a well-rounded, experienced team. We look at the back in terms of Carl Bartley, Mason Holgate, obviously who's had Premier League experience with Everton, but you look at that and you just think that's a really, really solid team from 1 to 11. It's hard to see on paper where we get a result against them. And I know we've just said there that we've got results against better teams this season in terms of looking at I guess positions and personnel on paper, but it really does worry me. It really does worry me when we look at some of these teams and the array of talent that they have and some of the players that they have at disposal and some of the players that don't even make the 11. We look there at the back and I imagine that we'll probably play, obviously, Jerry Yates. We might play Caden Jackson as well after he played, I think, quite well against Luton. So if we think about our attackers, How do you think they'll get on it against the likes of Kyle Bartley, Mason Holgate? They've obviously got Furlong as well at right back, a player that we've been linked with previously. It's all across that back line. It's all experience. It's all kind of athletic. And I guess, yeah, what's kind of your thoughts in terms of how we can maybe get the best out of them, and what kind of defenders do you think they are in terms of what they're going to offer?
I think generally speaking, I'm shout out to my cousin Eli. He did provide me with a lot of West Brom knowledge as well as myself. But I think even though they've got an experienced defence, I think similar to us, I think they lack pace. So if we are looking to try and exploit them in some way, I think we've got to use our pace with players like Mendes Lang, players like, well, he doesn't play, but Corey Blackett-Taylor. You're looking to our more faster players to sort of try and beat their experienced centre backs. Like I said, Kyle Bartley got lots of experience, Mason Holgate lots of experience, but they're not the quickest. If we can maybe try and go at him, maybe Jerry Yates just goes at him. Probably, I'd imagine Caden Jackson might start now. He's got that goal against Luton. They've got to use raw pace to try and beat him. I think especially one thing I've noticed this season on corner kicks when they're attacking, they only tend to leave one centre back at the back. So if we clear our lines quickly and we break at pace, they only tend to leave fellows at the back. So if you're playing 2v1 counter attacking, if we're literally springing them from our own defensive corners, we can hurt them. We need to use our pace, and I think that's probably one way we can get all 3 points against West Brom is if we start using our pace. So I imagine players like Mendes Lang, Jackson, Yates, these will be the players that will probably start. Potentially Brown if we want to try and match him, if they're going to go 4-4-2 and we want to put two up top. And I imagine we're going to chuck a lot of pace at this, because I think that's the one weakness that this West Brom side has. For all the experience they have, they're not the quickest team in the league, and that's one area where I think we can exploit them. So that's probably one of the key areas that I think Derby can target, and I don't think West Brom fans are gonna like me saying that, but I don't think they'll disagree with me either, because I think pace is something that they lack in their team.
You give me a bit more confidence there. So yeah, hopefully if we can get the ball down, if we can get the ball into channels, then hopefully we can get something from this. The likes of Kane Wilson as well, not necessarily quick, but quite tricky, and maybe give us a bit of an outlet on that right-hand side, similar to how we did against Luton. One player we've got to talk about is Lewis Dobbin. Obviously, he's on loan to West Brom from Aston Villa. So you know all about his transfer from Everton to Aston Villa, and he finds himself in the Championship at West Brom. He's not really played the minutes that he'd like to, I guess. Obviously, having some Premier League experience and then coming down to West Brom, he's not a starter over the course of the last 5. I don't think he's had more than 70 minutes. He had 68 minutes against Preston, but then nothing against Sheffield United, nothing against Watford. I'm not too sure if he was injured, but he seems to have not really set the world alight. But he's one of those players that I think if he comes on against us, you've got to have a bet that he probably scores, because it's that kind of thing that happens with Derby. Are you surprised to see him in the Championship? Do you think that's Lewis Dobbin's level? What's your thoughts on Lewis Dobbin?
I'll be honest, I didn't think he was that good when we had him at League One. I thought other than being a pace merchant, he didn't really offer a lot. And I think West Brom fans might agree with me in the sense that they've seen him this season, and other than actually being quick, doesn't actually offer a lot. I can't remember him scoring many, if any, goals at West Brom. I don't know if he's contributed to any assists. My cousin hasn't spoke about him, so I'm guessing that he's not had the best sort of loan spells there. But again, like you said, it's always inevitable when a former player comes to Derby. They always tend to score, and it'd be written in the stars for Dobbin to get a goal on Boxing Day. But me personally, I just think that it was a weird transfer, him going from Everton to Villa in the first place, then going straight out on loan to West Brom. I thought West Brom could probably do better, but I know West Brom do have some limitations in the transfer market. Again, maybe linked to financial fair play, I'm not too sure, but they've had a recent takeover and the guy's got serious money. So there's a lot of things going on. It's probably why they've tend to do business within the loan and the free market. But Yeah, Lewis Dobbin was an odd one for me. I don't see how he fits into that West Brom side. I guess it's always an option if they are trying to look at pace, but I don't see it, and I didn't think he was that good for us, and I just don't think he's that good for West Brom either.
So now we know what happens. He goes and scores a hat-trick against Derby on Boxing Day.
Takes all 3
That's
points, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, he didn't set the world light. I know he's young. I know he's probably developed in the time that he has left Derby, obviously. And I remember when he scored a goal in the Prem and we were seeing Asula and Dobbin in the Prem, it was kind of hard to believe that they were making that kind of step up. But yeah, he's definitely one to maybe watch off of the bench. I'm sure he'll get a good reception. He always, put himself about for Derby. So yeah, we're looking forward to welcoming Lewis Dobbin back, as long as he doesn't go and put the ball in the net. Obviously, you've had a discussion with your cousin about West Brom. I mean, what's kind of his overriding thoughts in terms of maybe how they kind of win this one? Then is it the players that we've already mentioned? Does he see anything in terms of Derby's weaknesses?
I think they'll be confident, especially with the recent results. I know that they're doing very well at home, but away from home they tend to make a lot of mistakes. And he did say to me one thing that West Brom are prone to is making a few mistakes at the back. Again, if we can exploit that and do it successfully, we'll probably walk away with all 3 points. But he's in a joyous mood. I think West Brom fans in general are looking to this fixture and probably thinking that they should take all 3 points, with us being a newly promoted side and whatnot. However, in recent history, I think Derby and West Brom, I think we've always got the better of them in recent memory. They don't have a great record at Pride Park, and I think this season away from home, it's probably an average sort of season for them away from home. So I think they'll be buoyed by the performance today. I think he did actually speak to me before I come on and said that it was probably one of their best performances of the season. And looking back at the highlights, I pretty much agree. I think they played some good stuff today. But again, it's probably against a footballing side like Bristol City. We probably won't do that. So we'll probably give them a tough game. But I think they're in a confident mood. But they're always worried about that record that they've got against us, which hasn't been great in recent memory.
Yeah, exactly. We've obviously had some great games against West Brom down the years, obviously the playoff campaign and different things like that. So it's all set up to be a really good game. And these are the games that we wanted. When we got promoted, we wanted to play the teams like West Brom and Leeds and obviously Sheffield Wednesday as well, who we've got coming up over the next 3. What do you think the aspirations are for West Brom then? Do you think all fans on their side are saying, playoffs is the minimum? I mean, looking at where they are, they're sat in a really good spot and they've got some really good results recently. So you're thinking that they're looking up rather than down, Vik?
I think they have to aim for playoffs. I think they've got a manager in Carlos Corberán who is really good for this level, plays some good stuff, can get the best out of any team. But I think he's also he's not on borrowed time. I know when they had that little blip earlier on in the season, the fans, the ones I was speaking to anyway, were heading towards the maybe Corberán out, which was quite interesting considering I don't think he did too bad. And I think with them still being in the upper half of the table, maybe their expectations are risen. I know that there's been a lot of financial stuff going on behind the scenes at West Brom, so there might be a sense of realism that maybe if they just miss out on playoffs, that would be an okay season. But for me personally, I think they need to be in the top 6. I think their parachute payments have run out, so they need to get promoted as soon as possible because they might lose some of these key players that we've mentioned today for transfer fees. And again, depending on their financial situation, it all depends on that. But for me, I'd like to think that West Brom should finish in the top 6 and at least challenge in the playoffs, just because I think that squad merits that. And I think some of their performances do too. So for me, if they finish top 6, great. If they finish outside that, I'd probably look at the manager and think, has he overstayed his welcome, in my opinion.
And that's quite unbelievable when he's being linked with, I guess, Premier League teams. But that's how football works. It's a results-based business. I tend to agree. I think they'll be there or thereabouts in terms of the playoffs. Like I said before, I look at that squad and I just think that they're so well rounded. They've got the experience, the flair, the work rate, everything that you probably need in a championship team to be successful. I think they have got. Obviously got January as well. I know you said that they've got potentially some financial constraints, but if they can go and get a player in, who knows? There's a certain Louis Barry that's available on loan from one of their Midlands rivals. So who knows? I'm not sure if players go. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely something that they will be looking at, that kind of top six finish. Now, obviously, at this point in the preview show, we ask about a score prediction, and it's apparent that obviously you're a Derby County fan. I don't know if anyone's not realised so far. Then yeah, I don't know what planet they're. Yeah, I'd be quite surprised. I don't know what planet they're on, but yeah, I want you to give because I know you're very optimistic on the pod, Vik. But what I want you to do is just take a second and just think as unbiased as you possibly can. Also, you've got to kind of thank your cousin for giving you some insight into West Brom so that you could be here tonight. So take that into consideration as well. And this is when you tell me that you think Derby are going to win 3-0.
You know what? Let's go for it. Derby going to win 7. No, I'm joking. Personally, I think, to be fair, I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be end to end. I think both teams are going to go for it. But I think they'll just cancel each other out. I think a mistake either side will probably settle the game, really. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, and I think I have to be respectful to Eli as well. I think he'd appreciate taking a point away from Pride Park. So I'd on behalf of West Brom fans, I'll say it's a 1-1 draw. Me personally, I think we're going to beat him 2-1, just because we've got that good record against them. We don't then do too bad against them, but on behalf of West Brom fans, I'll say a 1-1 draw, just because I think it's going to be that sort of game.
Yeah. I think I actually said on I'm thinking back now to the show that I've done a matter of minutes ago, but I think I said that we'd potentially get beat. I don't know. I just look at that team, and I know I keep saying it. I just think that they've got enough there to get a result, and they're coming off of this bounce of being able to secure their manager, hopefully. And yeah, it's set up to be a good game. I think we'd have to play our very best to get something out of the game. But I'm enthused with what I saw at Luton, so we'll have to see. But Vik, thanks so much for putting your West Brom head on and chatting to us about West Brom tonight. Like I say, the format is changing a little bit in the new year. We'll still be doing the previews and getting some insight into the opposition, but we had to have Vik along for just one show, and how fitting it was. It was the final one of this. Yeah, the final one of this particular format. And the most impressive thing that didn't happen is you didn't say "long may it continue" at any point. So it must be the only episode you've ever been on that you haven't said it.
I think so. Well, I could say it towards the end, to be fair, but I don't want to get West Brom fans too happy.
Very true. Very true. Well, if you have enjoyed this episode, please do go and like us 5-star wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be back over the Christmas period, obviously reacting to all of the festive games. Here's hoping we can get some points on the board and we can all have a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. Lots planned for 2025, so make sure you're following us across all of our social media platforms. And we do hope that you have a really good Christmas and New Year. And the last thing to say is, as it's a normal format, I'm going to say it. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Have a good Christmas.